I just wanted to get to the truth of everything, and I didn't care like how that would make me feel. I just wanted to know. Like everyone, I went through all the layers. You find out about the moon and the twin towers and all that stuff, and then I really didn't feel like the whole kind of spiritual scene really resonated at a core level with me. So I always had doubts about that scene, which I know now to be just another layer of the matrix, and actually was set up as the new religion because people were starting to lose faith with religions, literally. And so they needed something new. And so we have this whole entire huge movement now of quote unquote spirituality. I don't even like using that word. It's been so hijacked, corrupted and distorted through new age practices and teachings that what is it really? I mean, it's the opposite of spirituality in my opinion. And then it started to get interesting in terms of like the metaphysical and entities and overlays and negative energies and all that stuff. I made a video. That video went viral. It was about the military and, how we shouldn't be in countries and how we should stop referring to the military as heroes and all this stuff. And it got into military circles, that video. And I just woke up to a ton of death threats in my Facebook Messenger. They weren't happy with me at all. I didn't have any fear around the actual death threats. I knew they were full of hot air, and where I was living, it was in the middle of nowhere. And so, but energetically, I just felt really off, like ever since that moment for a good few months. But psychic energy is a real thing. Psychic attacks, it had like 40,000 hits. I had all this psychic energy on me, and it just literally started weighing me down, and I just felt really off. I felt drained. I felt tired, and it was just really abnormal. I was like, something's wrong. Since that video, something's wrong. And I tried all these different things, different detoxes, and nothing worked. And then I worked with someone, and she helped clear me with some entities and psychic energy and overlays, one of which being the chakras. I woke up the next morning and this cloud had lifted. Because the chakras are so prominent in the New Age, I was like, well, they're clearly not good for us. I was learning how deceptive that these entities are, how they will masquerade as angels and friendly aliens, and how people that are channeling are literally just channeling entities masquerading as false light beings, as I call them. I started clearing, and then I started finding sort of etheric implants on people which look like the things that Elon Musk is bringing out now. It's already there in the astral in 4D. Chips, AI technology on people's heads and brains and on the heart, and all this kind of technological looking stuff. It's already there in 4D. It's now starting to roll out in 3D. As I was clearing stuff and removing stuff, and it's been a span of 10 years now of learning to such a great depth of just how these entities work, how they manipulate people, how they hijack people's thoughts, how they get in on your wounds and your triggers, what they thrive under, and understanding at a very deep level of how they work. And not only whilst we're alive in terms of siphoning off our energy and using us as batteries and trying to manipulate us into situations that are not good for us, but also at the point of death, and how they will manipulate and deceive people in terms of the soul trap and the false white light when you die, with the false white light tunnel, and how people are being met with who they think is quote unquote Jesus, or the dead aunt that they were close to, or the angel that they really loved in their physical life, and how they're getting they're manipulating people into these life reviews and shoehorning them back in by guilt and shaming them, showing them the worst parts of their life, and threatening them with karma and hell and anything else that person believed in their physical life, hijacking the person into getting them to agree to come back down. And then, of course, the most cruel thing is the memory wipe, where they wipe the person's memory, and the person's back down on this energy farm being milked like a cow. So really, essentially, this is what this reality is. It's an energy farm, and we're the cows.
We believe in the concept of loosh, as coined by Monroe. Monroe was a big researcher and out-of-body experiencer. He had the concept of loosh, which is our energy, and that's being essentially harvested by negative entities.
Yes, absolutely. I think these entities will feed on most forms of energy, but their caviar, let's say, is the low vibrational energy, the fear, the anger, the sadness, the depression, the anxiety, because this is why they need to keep this world in that perpetual state. This is why we live in a world with constant wars, famines, dramas, anything that to make us, I mean, even now, like what's going on with the weather reports, right? Back in the 80s, the 90s, like the weather report, you had a nice, like, smiling young lady with all the suns on the maps, and maybe there'd be a grey cloud on the map, But now, like the heat map, where it's like bright red, and everyone's going to scorch to death, and it really is at this stage quite funny in a way, because you can just see how desperate they are to keep people in this perpetual state of fear. And
well, we're supposed to be dead according to them, I think. Weren't there supposed to be some ice caps melting or something in the 90s, or definitely by now?
We're supposed to get scorched by the hole in the ozone layer, right? I mean, it really is a joke, and it's why you just pick up a newspaper and you'll flick through, and it's just fear, 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 fear. You turn on the TV, it's fear, fear. I mean, there's a lot of incredible, amazing, wonderful things that happen on a daily basis on this planet. I know the overarching frequency is trauma, but there are miracles and things like that do happen. But when have you ever turned on the news and they say, oh, a wonderful thing happened today down the park, someone was got into a bit of a problem and this person helped them, and like you just never hear it, do you? Never hear any of the good stuff.
Even movies, like a horrible movie the other day was like a horror thriller or whatever, and I realized, like, wow, this is like keeping me in fear and anxiety for like 2 hours. You realize, like, what can actually all the things set up in this construct that can harvest your energy, your negative energy.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it really is set up for that, and you're absolutely right. A lot of the films now, I mean, even on Netflix, it's all these like murder documentaries, and who's the guy that was eating people and putting them in their fridge, and like all that's Jeffrey Dahmer and and then of course horror movies as well. I mean, an interesting fact about horror movies is that actually a lot of the things that you see in horror movies are actually, they do exist. Which is kind of freaky as entities. I've worked on people before, and I've seen the Saw entity before. I've seen the Scream entity before. So a lot of the
you've seen them in physical form.
Well, I've seen them in my mind's eye, clearing people as entities.
Okay.
Yeah, as interdimensionals. Let's keep it like that.
Okay.
Not in physical form. That really would be quite frightening.
So you have no experience with, like, you haven't seen like a gray alien or anything? Because I talk to people who've seen like aliens or demons or whatever.
Yeah, well, grey aliens are interdimensional, so they're just a demonic entity. What they're trying to do now is they're trying to get everyone to believe that aliens are physical beings coming from out of space. I mean, I don't even believe that space exists, but that could be another conversation for another day. And so because they're now this whole idea of disclosure, which is being like drip fed to the public, which is a massive psyop, because we know that round the corner there is going to be Project Bluebeam, and they're going to use their holographic technology to either fake an alien invasion or a Jesus homecoming or whatever. So they need to implant into the consciousness of the planet this idea that aliens are physical beings coming here from outer space, and they're either going to invade us or they're here to save us, whatever coin they decide to flick on that one.
So what do you suppose is happening though when because people do see like physical beings, and there's a lot of lore about beings under the earth that are physical? You don't think that they can manifest in any kind of...
I don't know. I mean, I question a lot of these abductions and things like that. I mean, maybe I think that a lot of the craft that we see is probably black ops, or it could be interdimensionals coming in and out of this dimension. I think that's more likely what's happening than I mean, if you understand that we're living under a firmament and there is no space, then what's going on with that anyway? It's impossible for craft to just fly into this realm.
I think it is like sort of a closed system with some openings, like portals or something like that.
Yeah, possibly it's more of an interdimensional thing. I would suggest that
Yeah,
maybe people are saying, because greys, they definitely exist in an interdimensional form, in an entity form, and sometimes people are able to see them. They come in and out of this dimension. I would err on the side that they're more likely to be black ops or military abductions rather than. And we know that they've got technology way beyond what we think that they have. So a lot of these craft are probably military. And again, there's probably several beneficial uses for them, for the powers that shouldn't be, in the fact that if they fly these things around, people are going to believe more in aliens and stuff like that. So,
for sure.
uh, I don't know exactly what's going on with that, but I know for sure that these are entity races, like the reptilians. Like there's many different entity races: serpent entities, spider entities, octopus entities, demonic entities. All these things are really just entities, and they're all there because they want a piece of the pie, which is our energy. And you can look at this two ways. You can look at it as, oh my God, we're screwed. All this stuff wants to feed on our energy. It wants us to suffer. Or you can flip that and say, okay, well, what is it about us that's so incredibly powerful that they all want a piece of us? And that is the bottom line of this. We're incredibly powerful batteries, and we're creative beings here. They like to make out that they're the strong, powerful ones, but really it's us. It's just the only difference is we've been led to believe that we're not, and we've been a slave race. So it's very difficult for people to embody that feeling of sovereignty and true human power. But it's important that we at least move in that direction, because we need to move out of this, what I call little me consciousness. I'm just me, and it's not an ego thing. I'm not telling everyone to walk around with like big heads, inflated egos. No, it's just really understanding that you are a incredibly powerful being. You're a creative being, and I think left unchecked, without all the hijacking, and I mean, just look at what they're doing to us. I mean, physically, they're poisoning our food, our water, our air. They've got all this mind control that we've touched on earlier with TV and newspapers and fear, and then you look at energetically what they're doing. They're attaching themselves and cording and getting us to agree to contracts and etheric implants and all this kind of stuff. So we're being bombarded, literally. And they have to do all that to keep us down, to keep us, to keep us in check, so to speak. I think if we were left to our own devices, without all this interference, without all the poisoning and everything else that's going on, I think the world would be such a much different place. Don't get me wrong, like we have to take responsibility as well. We've allowed this to happen to some extent. We're just not caring about what's going on. That there's consequences for that. But absolutely 100% for sure, we're under severe attack, not just in this third dimension, but also in the fourth dimension as well.
And the level of control they have over us tells you how powerful we are and how much they need us, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And what they've done is they've managed to convince everyone that, or they've managed to convince us that we're the parasites, that we're the bacteria on the planet. There's too many of us, they tell us, right? How many times do you meet someone and you get into a conversation and they start with that? They're like, yeah, but there's too many people on the planet. I mean, have you been on an airplane? I was in an airplane the other day, flying over some part of Mexico, and there was no one. There was like no one. The cities are overcrowded, by design, because they want everyone in these concrete jungles where they can, spray stuff and poison the water supply. And of course they're crowded. That's what they want. They want people in those places. But the idea that this planet is overpopulated is laughable. It's really just going to shoehorn in the next level of tyranny. And my point is they put out this stuff. I think humans, this is going quite deep now, but I think humans, because we are a slave race, or that's not our natural state. But I think because we have been a slave race for probably, I don't know, thousands. I mean, they've done several resets. I was thinking the other day, have you heard about these orphan trains?
Yes, from
Nigeria.
yeah, I've heard a little
Yeah.
bit. I haven't dived into that subject too much. I was supposed to talk to Howdy Mukowski about it like 10 million times, but I haven't.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about that the other day. I was thinking, what if the people here now, we're from like an orphan lineage, right? Maybe we have this abandoned. This is just, I'm just theorizing here. It could be completely off mark, but for sure we're a slave race, and I think when you're in that consciousness, there's an element, and this isn't a conscious thing, but an element of self-loathing, and I think maybe at our core level there is an element of self-loathing, which when they tell us that there's too many of us and we need to depopulate, I think that might be the reason why some people are so agreeable to it, because deep down they don't really like themselves. They don't feel that they're worthy. They don't feel good enough, and I think it just ties into that. So I think psychologically, people need to do the inner work to move out of that state of consciousness. We've all had trauma there. Some people more than others. Even if you haven't, there's unconscious parenting and school. School was not very enjoyable for me. We need to work on to move out of this victim consciousness, slave mindset consciousness, self-loathing consciousness. And then we can, once we do that work, we can really start to really embody that feeling of sovereignty and what it really is to be human. And what we're seeing right now, especially over the last 2 or 3 years, with people walking around with, I think the last 2 years we reached the lowest level of human consciousness. So it's a very interesting time to be alive, for sure. And but I kind of went off on one there. I don't know if I went off. I just started going into one thing.
You covered a lot of subjects.
When you go into the fourth dimension, which is where people are going when they're channeling, that's their ground, right? That's the ground of the entity. But they will tell you what you want to hear. They will give you nuggets of truth, even help you in certain circumstances. A good one a good example of this is John of God. Do you know about John of God?
Yes, yeah, he's creepy.
So John of God was healing people with cancers, right? If you look at his story, he was doing incredible healing work, right? But he was also a child trafficker. So this is what I'm saying, right? They will give you good nuggets of truth and maybe some gifts, so to speak. But there'll always be a rug pull at some stage, and a lot of people that are channeling, they're getting people tied and hooked into all this light language and all this other false white light concepts and all the new age concepts that are very dangerous, that lead people astray. Things like never judge. I mean, that's the worst one. That's got to be the worst one out there. Don't judge anything. I mean, it drives me around the bend, that one. Oh, you shouldn't judge. Well, okay, so when you meet a new person, do you make judgments? Of course you make judgments. When you get into a relationship, are you going to make judgments? Yeah, of course you're going to make a judgment. We make judgments all the time. When you go out of your house to cross the road, are you going to just walk across it? No, you're going to make a judgment. Is it safe for me to cross? Judgment is key to the whole discernment process.
Discrimination is actually like a good thing, right?
Yeah, especially now when we've been so deceived on so many levels, and then you get these people in the comments saying, "Oh, you shouldn't judge." I'm like, no, we need to judge more. So, and I always say to people, who does it benefit? Who does it benefit if we live in this world of non-judgment? Well, it benefits psychopaths that want to rage wars and steal our freedoms and do whatever they want to do, right? Because if you don't make judgments on them, then they've got carte blanche to do whatever they want, right? So the others, like, never get angry. That's another one. I mean, there's a place for righteous anger. It can lead to great change and transformation. I mean, yeah, getting stuck in anger is no good. If you're there every day angry, yeah, there's a place for righteous anger. The other one being just accept, just accept everything. No, we shouldn't just accept everything. We should change the things that we can change. Of course, there's got to be acceptance with things that we can't. And just keep a high vibration, just think happy thoughts, and everything's going to be all right. The other one that I can't stand is if you focus on the negative, you're going to draw more of it in. I mean, that's just that's spiritual bypassing.
You don't think we have that sort of magnetism to like attract what we think?
No, because for example, if you break your leg, you're not just going to think happy thoughts, are you, and hope that it heals. You're going to go to the hospital. You're going to take physical action, and you're going to get it fixed, right? It's not going to be like, oh, if you focus on that broken leg, you're going to break the other one. So they've distorted it and twisted it. What you resist, you get more of quite often. So, and again, who does it benefit to keep people just thinking high vibrational? And I'm not saying we should all be there down and depressed, and I'm the first one to say that we have to find the joy in life. There's a lot of things that we can enjoy in this realm, nature. We can have friends, family relationships, all that kind of stuff. But just sitting there under a tree singing Kumbaya, thinking happy thoughts and keeping your vibration high,
yeah,
it's not changing anything. In fact,
it's excessive. Yeah,
it's allowing more evil to take place, because the people that are doing that, they know something's wrong, and rather than do anything, they're just like, oh well, if I just think happy thoughts, and so there's all these deceptions within the New Age just really keep people in a cul-de-sac, and it just really is religion 101. It's just another way. Instead of Jesus, you have Archangel Michael, or you have the Arcturians, or whatever, and everyone's thinking that they're going to come and help them and save them and all this stuff. That's the other thing, we need to move out of these savior programs. We're so desperate for someone or something to come and sort not only the world mess out, but the mess in our own lives. And we're just going with anything that makes us feel good, and that's not the idea of this. We need to go with what feels true rather than what feels good, and there's a big difference between the two. And a lot of people are not keen on my work because the message doesn't always make you feel good. If someone really loves their connection with Archangel Michael, even though he's an entity, and I come along and say, well, no, hey, it's not going to be good for you, then it can trigger people. So a lot of people can get upset, but yeah. I think now in this lifetime, it's very important for us, this window of opportunity now. They know that with what's going on. I think we're at a crossroads, both these entities and humanity, whereby we either get out of here or we know what's around the corner. People need to get it right this lifetime, because if you go through that false white light soul trap thing again and you get your memory wiped at the end, who knows how many more lifetimes it's going to be before you have the same level of information that you have now. So I'm very calm about the situation, because I have a plan. I have a plan of what I'm going to do. You study NDEs and pre-birth memories and all that kind of stuff. You see the same things being replayed time and time again. With all this knowledge, I think we have to look at it from a very objective, emotion-free basis and see it for what it is. I call it like the awakening from the false awakening. Hang on, no one's coming to save us. I'm a sovereign being. I'm responsible for what happens to my consciousness. And you understand how you can wise up to the tricks of the matrix. And then the core understanding is that it brings it back to self, because I'm not saying to anyone, hey, look, Jesus is coming, or they're coming, or you. I'm saying that you have the power. So the power always lies with us. And I think where we've gone wrong is that we've given our power away, and we're not discerning, and we're going with what feels good, and we don't want to feel a certain way about certain information, and we're missing like nuggets of gold. They've layered it with all this new age BS, and so you've got somewhere, and then you go down into a cul-de-sac, and then you go into this way, and you go into a cul-de-sac. So it's kind of like those guys in the river where they're sifting the gold, and there's mud and stuff going through it, right? And then they're left with the gold. And I think that's what we have to do. We have to sift through all the mud to find the gold. But to do that, we have to learn how to discern properly, because, as I said before, what people doing, and especially people that are in the new age or religion, is they're going with what feels good rather than what feels true. Now, for me, truth is a resonance. It hits when I hear truth, it hits me in my core. Like I feel it. Like, I might not like it, but I'll feel it, right? When I found out about the chakras, I was like, whoa, I'm not sure about that. That's a stretch too far. But there was something there that I was like, that's fucking true. I know that's true. And so that's how we got to be. We got to. It's like feeling into information, feeling into a person. Because there's so many like controlled opposition and puppets out there, and like I see all the people in the alternative media, like the new one on the block's Robert Kennedy. Everyone's going Google after Robert Kennedy with his fake Parkinson's, and I'm like, whoa, hang on a minute.
You think that's fake? You think he's putting that on?
I think these people are puppets, right? We're watching a show, and he's come in and he's playing his role, and just so happened to be tied into JFK and the story behind that. Obviously, that keeps people in that loop, and he's just the next savior. Trump's not saving us. Robert Kennedy's not saving us. Archangel Michael's not saving. Jesus isn't saving us. God's not saving us. You are here to save yourself. And I said this on another podcast the other day. This whole idea of oneness, right? I've got a bit of a problem with that at the moment. Now, at some level, maybe that's true. But in this matrix, in this game, the more I learn, the more I feel like this is very much a soul journey. We call it the soul, right? Soul means one, right? And when you start researching the soul trap and you learn how, okay, so they're gonna try this and try that. There is no others that you're tapping in to try, quote unquote, save you, or that's gonna. This is information that you need to learn in your physical life to take into that to that point when you pass over. And this oneness isn't going to do that for us. That's very much a soul thing, a solo journey, and so it really, really just comes back to self. To taking responsibility, being discerning, not going with what just feels good all the time, and that's how we're going to get out of this. I think we've completely lost our discernment abilities, even in alternative media. Truth, don't get me wrong, I don't get it right all the time. I'm not sitting here saying I'm perfect. I fell for the whole vegan thing a few years ago, right? No. So they got me on my empathy though, so that's one thing. Yeah. But generally, I feel like it's pretty decent due to the background of the work that I do and everything. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to sharpen those discernment.
Absolutely.
And not just like. We've got to give it up, guys. Give it up. This idea that the next politician is going to come in and
I still get into so many arguments on that. It's amazing how many people will not let go of the political process. After Trump, I thought people would be like, I thought it was like, okay, people are going to get it now. Yeah. This motherfucker came out. He started saying COVID was a hoax, first of all, and then he ended with selling you the product that the left wanted you to buy into. What do you think this earth is if it's not a school?
I think it's a farm. I know what it's not what people want to hear, but I think that's what it is. It's an energy farm. don't even get me started on God. I mean, it's like this God that needs you to pray every day and worship him, and if you don't, he's going to send you to a burning inferno, like for forever. I mean, for God's sake, like.
Well, the God of the Bible is completely Satan, whatever you want to, or what demiurge, whatever. That's my
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah, absolutely, and I think you've got a God there that's masquerading, as a creator. So I do believe that there is a creative intelligence behind everything.
Yeah.
And in actual fact, I think humans have a spark of that within us. I mean, that's the other empowering thing within my messages. It's like, look, hey, you don't need this false god. You have a fractal of that within you. That's why we're creative beings. That's why we're unpredictable to them. We're the storytellers, the writers, the poets, and all that stuff. If you're asking to sum up this reality, it's a farm. It's an energy harvesting farm. And it's set up for that in terms of everything. The fact that we have to pay for a living, and it causes an incredible amount of stress and anxiety every day. Most of the world live in poverty. I was just in Colombia. There's women on the streets there with little babies, just like sitting on the, like there shouldn't be one person on this planet that lives in poverty. But we have it. We live in a world of scarcity when it should be abundance.
But the government cares about us, right?
Oh, of course, yeah. It's just the whole thing is set up to keep us in states of fear and anxiety, and we're fighting each other, and we're all trying to get ahead of each other, and we're arguing with each other, and it's and then of course they've done such a great job of dividing us all, and in terms of our nationalities and our race and everything else. So
yeah.
It's a farm, and the game. I believe this to be a game. Like many other games that we could probably experience, and this game I call Gangster Planet, like Sims gangster version. For me, my plan for this lifetime is I want to make sure I get the hell out first and foremost, and then also so with that I want to get the right knowledge. I don't want any knowledge. I don't want shit that's going to make me feel good. I want real hardcore, like rock solid knowledge that's going to get me out of here, right? That I can embody and then move in that direction. I'm not interested in people telling me that someone's going to save me, or someone's going to come down, or someone's going to guide me, or no. If I do that, I know I'm leading it to chance, especially when you look at what happens at death. And I want to help as many other people on the way. So I want to help myself first, and then obviously I want to help other people. And that for me is a big part of my purpose while I'm here. And then thirdly, I'm going to make sure that I have as good a time as I can on the way out. And they're not going to steal my dreams and hopes. And they might try, but I'm the creator being here. And I'm going to have a good time on the way out. And it's probably not going to be easy at some points, but I'm going to make sure that I enjoy my hobbies. I love the sea, the ocean, and nature, and I'm going to have my good connections. And
yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
And with all this stuff, I think it's really, don't consume it in fear and let it like take up space, because that defeats the entire purpose. So
and they love all that. I mean, when you're in a depressed state and you're anxious and fearful, and that's food for them. That's their caviar. So I'm a stubborn ass. I don't want to give them what they want. I mean, some days I have down days, but so get yourself out. If you can, help others along the way. And I think the more of us that do that, I mean, what happens when you take a battery out of something? It dies, right? And I think that's what will happen. I mean, there's arguments to say that this matrix is coming to an end anyway. Don't know if you see all the glitching going on right now, and there's a lot of weird stuff going on. I know I'm here in Mexico. The Mayans talked about, the end of a time period.
Yeah.
There's also the astrological of Piscean age going into Aquarius. So we're definitely in changing times. It's just how deep and far we go into suffering or not, I think. And I think with the rise of the internet, it's been both a gift and a curse for them. I think obviously they use it for all their spying and everything else, but I think the alternative media over the last few years, despite all the censorship, I think we've done a really good job of getting information out there, and we don't it takes a lot to do things like this. We take our time out of our diary, and you get it all set up, then you edit it, then you're making thumbnails, and this stuff is not it's not a quick thing to just put together, and
Hard work. Yeah.
it's hard work, yeah, and then you get attacked from trolls, and you get the channels trying to censor you and take you down. So there's a lot of people that put in a lot of hard hours, and I think there has to be some reward for that, and I think we're starting to see that. Especially now, the censorship's through the roof. I've had to hide my YouTube channel right now because I'm on 2 strikes, but.
Yeah.
But I think they're getting very desperate in terms of the information spreads so quickly now, and I don't know too many people at this point that really trust the government, but I mean, there's still certainly a lot, but
There's still the political people out there. Yeah.
yeah,
Believe me.
yeah, there's layers to it, isn't there? You
Yeah.
can realize politics is corrupt and still think that the next politician's going to come and maybe. So
Everyone's at their own level of consciousness, really. I think it's just like I've stopped caring too much. I think like if you're not there yet, then it's just like that's your deal, and you're going to get there when you get there. All you can do with those type of people is like plant seeds and hope they grow.
yeah, I used to be really heavily invested in waking people up. I think it's all about helping people that want to get out, and a lot of people that are coming out of the New Age cult, which it is a cult, and so there's a lot of people that are sort of coming out of the false awakening, as I would refer to it as, and I think once you get past the false awakening, I think that's where things really get interesting, and you really are starting to get on the path of real liberation and sovereignty. But that doesn't make you feel good, especially if you've been stuck in the New Age for sometimes up to 10, 15, 20 years. You've got all that programming that you thought was true, and then you find out it's just another deception. And then you've got people like me that are pulling away people's pillars of angels and stuff like that. I mean, I have it all the time. People email me and they're like, Tony, I hate you, but I love you as well. Like, I hated you for about 2 months when you started talking about the New Age. And then when I realized what you were saying was true, I feel, now I feel a lot better. I had one yoga teacher that I worked with 25 years in yoga. He's like, I hated you at the start. He's like, I absolutely hated you. He's like, but something that you were saying felt true, and I had to go with it, and now I'm glad I did. So yeah, it might not feel good in the moment, but ultimately, I think the idea is to get the hell out of here, and maybe we can go somewhere which is maybe not so gangster in the future.
I think we can. While we're on the topic of New Age, I did want to get into your theory on chakras, because this is the first time I never heard anybody say this about chakras, but you believe the chakras are really just like attachment points for entities, yeah?
Yeah.
How does that work?
Well, I think you summed it up pretty well, actually. Yeah, I mean, essentially, that's simply what they are. I mean, we've been sold this idea that, we have to keep balancing our chakras every day to make ourselves feel good, which kind of doesn't make sense anyway when you think about it. Like, why would a creative intelligence compartmentalize your energy flow in chakras, right? It's like, doesn't make sense. But yeah, I mean, essentially they're etheric plugs that entities use to hook into your energy field and siphon your energy and loop negative mind thought loops around your head all day, every day. And one of the things that people report when you remove that implant is that the quietness of the mind. It's almost, I mean, for me, it was incredible. The day after, I couldn't believe how many of my own thoughts were not my own. Like I could literally, I sat there and I just had peace in my head. So that really is a huge difference for people. It's the quietness of the mind. Now, don't get me wrong; it's not the only way that entities attach, but it seems to be. If you imagine they have an arsenal of weapons, the chakras is one of the biggest. That's one of their big guns, let's say. Other ways they get in trauma, they get in on unhealed trauma. So every time you're triggered, you can open yourself up. Obviously things like alcohol, drugs, weed, psychedelics. I mean, that's the other thing people hate to hear when I say, oh, psychedelics, you shouldn't be taking them. They're like, what? All the plant medicine people are like, what? No, you can have this experience. And like, no, yeah, all right. You can see, you get insights into the fourth dimension, which is the entity realm, if you like. You're not actually we go way beyond the fourth dimension. You're just getting an insight into their football ground, to use that analogy again. So they have other ways and pharmaceutical drugs. Anytime you alter your frequency or open, you are basically leaving the door open for them to attach themselves. And anytime you get really triggered over something, like something might happen, you might get really angry, or you might have an argument, and then that can also open us up, because there's that drop in frequency. And yeah, like I say, the unhealed trauma, they hook in on your unhealed wounds, turn the volume up on that. So just say you've got an abandonment wound, they'll hook in on that and they'll turn the volume up on that. And so they do have other ways of hijacking our energy field, but the chakras is definitely one of their most favorite options, let's put it like that. And
what is the process like for removing the chakras and maybe even like clearing entities in general? Like, what is that like?
So a lot of it, there's different ways that you can clear energy and clear things. I mean, a lot of it is clairvisual. We all have clairvisual abilities. It's just they lay dormant in people because they don't realize they have them. So there's nothing that I can do that you can do. It's just the only difference between you and I is I've spent 10 years doing it, and it's like a muscle that if you train, it gets stronger. So if you don't use it, you kind of lose it. So things like clairaudio abilities, clairvisual abilities, psychic abilities, remote viewing, we all have that. This is one of the other reasons why humans are incredible. We're extremely multidimensional in that sense. And you can clear stuff. It's a combination of things. It's mainly intention. That's the main thing behind it. But of course, it's something that you get more adept to the longer that you do it. You know where to look. You know what to look for. Like anything, I always liken it as an electrician. If my electrics break down, I'm probably not going to do it myself. I'll call someone in that knows what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not that I couldn't learn to be an electrician myself. So that's kind of what it is.
So it's kind of like learning how to access like astral travel, like out of body experiences.
Not really like that. You don't really go into like an astral travel scenario. You're literally using your clairvisual abilities to clear whatever needs to be cleared, or whatever your intention is to clear. So if I'm working on someone and I'm looking to clear entities, I ask my subconscious to show me the entities, and then like a pack of cards, I might see a reptilian, I might see a gargoyle, then I might see an octopus, then I might see a serpent entity, and I'm just clearing, and then maybe that person might say to me, I feel like I've got a lot of interference on my heart. So then I'll check, okay, maybe there's some etheric implants on the heart, show me the heart, and then I'm clearing. But that comes with experience. But I have put a course together which helps people to learn how to do all this stuff. That's on my website. So if anyone wants to check that out, that's there. But yeah, it's stuff that we can all potentially do. It's just we're not taught about it at school for obvious reasons. And then when we grow older, it's kind of seen as like taboo. And so we end up never doing anything.
Tony, do you think that a lot of these politicians and elites that we see on television every day are heavily attached to other entities?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And with the alternative media and the truth community, they're very much focused on the entities working through politicians and government officials and leaders of corporations and that kind of thing, which is 100% true. But these entities affect all of us. Everyone has entity attachments. Just some have more than others, and some people have worse attachments than others. So, for example, if I was to work on you, you're going to have less attachments than someone who does meths, right? So that person's going to have a lot more. So I go as far as to say is that people that murder and rape and do stuff like this are and even probably child abusers. I don't even believe that's the human. I think that's the entity element of the person. I think some people are almost fully hosted. And if you research murders and rapes and things like that, you'll often hear that the victim always says, I saw the eyes go black, or I asked them to, or they said, don't look at the eyes. And I had a personal experience once with an ex-girlfriend a few years ago now. And I actually saw the eyes change. So
really?
Yeah.
Black or reptilian thing or what?
It flickered. Yeah, it flickered more like a reptilian. And when I look back at that relationship, I could tell that they were trying to. It's called a love bite relationship, where they set up certain relationships for you in the astral, because they can see your timeline, right? So they would have known my timeline, which interestingly enough was a year before I got into all this stuff, right? So they could see my trajectory. And so what happened was they put this girl in my path who was everything I thought I ever wanted. She was against the system. She wanted to go off grid and all this stuff. And I was like, wow, she's perfect. And then 6 months down the line, I had a massive smear campaign. She was making up all these lies. She was following me. She was like, it was crazy, man. It was crazy. And that's what a love bite situation, a love bite relationship is. I've done interviews on my channel with Evil Organ about that, who's very knowledgeable about the subject. So these entities, if you're a threat to them, they will target you accordingly. So a lot of people that have had a lot of trauma in their lives, it's to do with their trajectory and their threat to the matrix, their potential threat to the matrix, because some people, if left unchecked without any hijacking, would be a real problem for them. I have a lady who I worked with for many years who was a satanic ritual abuse survivor, and incredible woman. And how she retains her sense of humor after what happened to her is incredible in and of itself. But you could tell by meeting her, she's extremely intuitive. It's almost like she knows things like way before you know them, and you could see why they would target her. And I think some of the people that have the worst trauma, I think, also have the most potential, and I think that's also very sad. But I think it's important for them to understand that sometimes if you've had a really wretched life like that, it's because the matrix wants you to suffer. So then you turn to drugs or alcohol, or you spend a lifetime healing yourself, and then it takes you out of the game, so to speak, because this is a game.
Some of your other videos about World War II pilots seeing demons, which I wanted to ask you more about and what that actually meant.
I think the US military had these special goggles that saw everything in ultraviolet. I don't know but they said they put these goggles on, and when they were out like dropping bombs and stuff, they just saw all these demons around them. And really, that's what war is. It's a big loosh fest. So when I read that and I researched it just ties in with what I've been saying. You know, these entities, they like all forms of human energy, but they particularly like all the fear, the pain, the death, the anger. And so in a war situation, you would imagine it would be like a feast for them, which reading this account, it sounds like it was. So the whole area was kind of swarmed with these entities, and they were all feeding off all the energy, probably the energy from the people on the ground that were suffering, but also from the pilots and everything that were, I don't know, there was probably fear and anxiety there, or maybe it was excitement. I don't know. Depends on the person in question, I think. So yeah, that was just more confirmation of what I've been saying earlier about what this realm is in terms of a farm, a loosh farm. And then to answer your second question about mental illness, I would suggest that a lot of mental illnesses are, in fact, just heavy entity attachments, certainly schizophrenia. I had a guy called Jerry Marzinski on my YouTube channel who is, he worked 30 years in a schizophrenic ward, and he describes to a T how they all act the same way, how they all hear these voices are telling them to do stuff they don't want to do, making them feel ways that they didn't feel before. And you know, he's adamant that these things, that these people are just they have very strong entity attachments, and then they give them the drugs, which of course it doesn't solve the problem, it just quietens the voices for a little while, but the voices are still there. What the person really needs is to clear the entities. So now that probably extends into other kind of mental health issues as well, because if you go back to what I was saying about the chakras, in terms of realizing that most of your thoughts are really not your own. I mean, once you become clear of this stuff, I'll know straight away if I've got something interfering with me, because I'll just be sitting there minding my own business, and then all of a sudden I'll start, you know, feeling depressed about something, or I'll start having this thought about something, or not feeling good enough about something, and then I'll check myself and I'll go, oh, that was weird, because I was feeling really okay a minute ago, and now I'm feeling a certain way, and then, you know, I'll clear myself, and turns out that something attached itself. So yeah, they have a huge bearing on our mental health, to the point where, yeah, I believe they get people to do things like murder, rape, and molest. So yeah,
Jeffrey Dahmer had a satanic altar,
yeah,
which I thought was really interesting. No,
yeah.
they didn't really cover that a lot, but there's a picture of it. You can find it.
Actually, just on Netflix series, do you watch Black Mirror?
I've seen like 2 or 3 episodes.
Okay, so on the latest series, there's the final episode of the latest series describes to a T what I'm saying about false white light beings and how they masquerade.
Mm-hmm.
I won't spoil it, but you should watch it. But basically, the woman, the entity shows itself to the woman, and it scares the woman, because in its true form it's demonic, right? And it looks ugly. So she gets all freaked out, and this entity's like, hey, am I freaking you out? Would you like me to change into something else? And prior to that, she'd watch it's filmed in the 70s, right? And she watches a group called Boney M. I don't know if you heard of them. And it doesn't matter, but anyway, that she kind of fancies the guy in it. The guy in one of the lead singers of Boney M. And so when this entity asks her to if she would like him to change, she chooses this character from Boney M. So the entity looks much more appealing to her, but yet it's still getting her to do all this dark stuff for it. And that's as soon as I saw it, I was like, that's what I've been saying. It's a false white light being. It's masquerading itself And that's what they do. They masquerade themselves. So
There's a Star Trek episode too where one of the characters is like unconscious or something, and like she's confronted with I think a light and her father, but she figures out that her father is really an alien in disguise trying to trick her into the light,
trying to get her to come back. Yeah. She's like, no, I don't want to come back. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, they always tell you in their programs what they're doing. So yeah,
it's everywhere. All right, Tony. Well, God, thanks so much. Time has flown by.